This is the story of a real-life Michael Scofield. Have you ever seen the series Prison Break? If yes, then you might remember how this character single-handedly broke 2 prisoners out of the most secure jail in America. Well, if you thought that was just fiction, then think again. On July 1st, 2018, France woke up to news that seemed ripped straight out of a Hollywood action film. At a high-security prison near Paris, a daring escape was unfolding, one that would shock the nation, humiliate authorities, and once again prove that one man had the ability to outsmart some of the toughest prison systems in the world. Welcome to our channel, and today let us find out how one man single-handedly escaped from one of the most secure prisons in the world. Fade wasn't just any inmate. By 2018, he was already a household name in France, a man who had built his reputation on armed robberies, heists, and a chilling disregard for the law. Known as inmate number 0010189, he was serving time for masterminding violent robberies and had already proven himself capable of breaking free once before. 5 years earlier, in 2013, he stunned the world by escaping from another maximum security prison, using nothing but explosives and nerve. To the authorities, Fade wasn't just a criminal, he was a ghost, always finding a way to slip through their grasp. But to understand the magnitude of what happened in 2018, we need to step back. Fade's criminal career was a study in patience and planning. Years prior to the events of 2018, Fade and his crew had attempted a high-stakes robbery on a cash-in-transit van. It was meant to be quick, precise, and massively profitable. Instead, it turned into chaos. Police intervened, gunfire erupted, and people were injured. In the middle of that failed heist, Fade lost blood at the scene, giving investigators one of the most powerful tools they could use against him: his DNA. It was a mistake that tied him directly to the crime, locking him behind bars once again. Yet prison walls had never been enough to contain him. Fade studied heists the way others studied textbooks, drawing inspiration from crime films, books, and his own cunning. By 2018, he had spent years planning, waiting, and watching. The prison he was in was considered one of the most secure in the country, with surveillance systems, armed guards, and heavily reinforced gates. To the authorities, an escape was unthinkable, but for Fade, it was inevitable. On that fateful July morning, everything fell into place. A helicopter, hijacked by armed accomplices, flew low over the prison, landing in the courtyard. Inmates and guards alike were stunned as masked men armed with assault rifles rushed out. Within minutes, they located Fade and ushered him aboard. The operation was carried out with military precision, quick, ruthless, and without hesitation. Guards were powerless, and the spectacle unfolded like a scene out of a blockbuster thriller. Within moments, the helicopter lifted off, carrying France's most infamous criminal to freedom once again. The escape wasn't just daring, it was humiliating for the French justice system. How could a man already known for breaking out once before manage to orchestrate such a brazen escape under their watch? The entire country demanded answers, and the manhunt that followed was one of the most intense in modern French history. Authorities launched nationwide raids, checking every lead, every possible safe house, and anyone with known ties to Fade. But Fade had built his life on staying one step ahead. For weeks, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving investigators chasing ghosts. His ability to vanish was legendary, and many began to question whether the police would ever catch him again. Meanwhile, the French government was in crisis mode. How could something like this happen on their watch? Questions were fired back and forth. Had security measures been compromised? Were there moles within the system feeding information to Fade? The pressure was immense, and the stakes were higher. Not only was Fade a national security threat, he was a symbol of a justice system seemingly unable to hold him accountable. In the face of mounting pressure, the government vowed to bring him to justice, dead or alive. Every available resource was deployed, every lead investigated. But as days turned into weeks, hope began to dwindle. Fade had vanished without a trace, and the fear was he'd planned this meticulously. Then, a glimmer of hope. A witness came forward, having spotted Fade in a small town north of Marseille. It was a long shot, but it was the best lead they had. A team was dispatched, and as they closed in, Fade made a critical error. He contacted one of his associates, believing he'd shaken off the heat. But every criminal has a weakness, a loved one close behind. In this case, it was a woman named Audrey. She was the key to ending Fade's freedom. Acting on a tip, Police intercepted a call and tracked her to a farmhouse in the small town of Nans-les-Mines. As they watched, a white van pulled up, the same one Fade had been using. They moved in quickly, arresting Fade without a struggle. It was a textbook police operation, swift and decisive. But Fade wasn't alone. Audrey was there, too, arrested for aiding and abetting a fugitive. For the police, it was a victory. They had brought France's most wanted man back into custody, ending a manhunt that had gripped the nation. But Fade's escape had caused a seismic shift in the French prison system. The authorities knew they couldn't keep him secure, so they took drastic measures. Now, his cell is soundproof, equipped with cameras everywhere, and the walls are lined with steel. Even his bed and table are bolted down. This is not just a prison cell, it's a fortress. But why do they keep him isolated? What's so dangerous about Reed and Fade? Fade's journey to becoming France's most wanted man wasn't a sudden rise, but a slow burn that started early in his life. Born on March 17, 1968, in the tough neighborhood of Courneuve, Saint-Denis, he was a child of a broken home with parents who divorced when he was still young. His father, absent for most of Fade's life, left a void that was filled with anger and resentment. His mother, a Spanish immigrant who worked as a cleaner, struggled to cope, leaving young Redouin to fend for himself. Growing up in a housing estate, Fade found solace in sports. Football became his passion, offering a temporary escape from the harsh realities of his environment. But fate had a different plan for him. While playing football, Fade caught the eye of recruiters, not for his sporting skills, but for his striking resemblance to a notorious bank robber named Redouin. This chance encounter set him on a path he could never have imagined, becoming the protégé of the infamous Redouin, a man already feared throughout France. Under his mentor's guidance, Fade learned the tricks of the trade, the planning, the execution, and the art of disappearing after a job. It was a crash course in the world of high-stakes robberies. But Fade wasn't just a quick learner. He had a natural talent for it, a knack for strategy, and a boldness that bordered on insanity. By the time he was 19, Fade was a seasoned bank robber, operating across France with his mentor. They were a formidable duo, striking fear into the hearts of bankers and police alike. But Fade's ambitions didn't stop at banks. He wanted bigger, bolder targets. This led him to his most audacious heist yet, attacking trucks, transporting cash. These weren't your everyday armored vehicles. They were heavily guarded, moving on well-planned routes, and accompanied by armed security. Yet Fade saw opportunity where others saw futility. In 2004, Fade pulled off one of the most daring cash truck robberies in history. Targeting a depot near Lyon, he and his gang made off with a staggering €9 million. It was a clean getaway that sent shockwaves across France. From that point on, Fade's notoriety skyrocketed. He became the ghost of French heists, always a step ahead of the police. But his greatest escape was still to come. The authorities knew they needed to take Fade off the streets for good. This meant only one thing: life in prison. But Fade wasn't going down without a fight. In 2005, he tried to flee to Thailand, but was extradited back to France. He was sentenced to 25 years, effectively ending his reign of terror. However, the prison walls couldn't contain him. Fade had other plans. In 2013, he orchestrated his first prison break, escaping from the high-security Bonneville prison. His method, an audacious blend of planning and improvisation, involved overpowering prison staff, holding them hostage, and making a daring exit with a hostage. It was a brilliant move that showcased Fade's cunning and ruthlessness. Once free, he went into hiding, managing to evade the police for months. Eventually, they caught up with him, bringing him back to prison. But instead of being deterred, Fade was emboldened. His second prison escape was even more audacious. 5 years later, he managed to break out of the top-security Sequenon prison, thanks to a meticulously planned operation involving a helicopter. This time, he had help from the outside, a group of accomplices who had hijacked a helicopter and landed it inside the prison yard. It was a brazen display of teamwork and audacity. And as the accomplices descended, armed with weapons, they took the guards by surprise, allowing Fade and 3 other inmates to make a clean getaway. This wasn't just a prison break. It was a humiliation for the French prison system. How could 2 of France's most secure prisons be breached? And where was Fade now? The authorities knew they had to act fast. A nationwide manhunt was launched, but Fade had vanished without a trace. it would be a while before they caught up with him. In the end, Feat's capture was a testament to the reach of modern surveillance and the determination of law enforcement. But it also highlighted the chilling reality of his situation. How many times can a man escape before authorities take extreme measures? And what is it about Feat's story that continues to captivate us? Is it his audacity, his intelligence, or the sheer impossibility of his escapes? Or perhaps it's the reminder that no matter how secure our systems seem, there's always room for improvement. Whatever the reason, one thing is clear: the story of Feat is far from over.